community is great when you have the right people in the community, because not all communities are godly communities, and some communities serve your flesh and your desires of your heart at that point in time, versus other communities serve God, and be able to discern which ways or which ones are which is very pivotal, and that definitely comes with knowing who He is, and that's of course with reading the Bible and everything.
Turn on the lamp, I don't go postal till God give his stamp. We going global, I'm in with the champs. I sit at the Oval, they told me I can't, Turn on the lamp, I don't go postal till God give his stamp. We going global.
Welcome back to Turn on the Lamp podcast. I'm here with an amazing guest, a guy that I recently met this past year. Man, he's full of wisdom, Divine Ranson. I appreciate you for joining the show, bro.
Absolutely, bro.
So first question I got, bro, what is this season that God has you in?
Man, that's a great question. For me, I would say right now, God really has me in a submission season right now. It's really the heart posture of God really asking me, am I enough? And I'm sorry, is He enough in my life, more so? And that really just looks like, if I don't give you anything else, if I don't give you any more titles, if I don't bless you, if I don't add anything else, and if I don't give you any of your desires, anything that you pray over, anything like that at all, am I absolutely enough? Is my name enough? Will you still call on me, or will you still seek my face and hear my voice? Will that absolutely be enough for you before I do anything else for you? And that's really been a hard posture, really, if I were absolutely be honest, because for me, as I examined my walk previously, it's always been God and something else, or God plus something else. And I've been learning recently at church, like God is enough. And I've always heard it, God be my everything, and so forth and so on from there. But I've always had a contingency of making myself and having a heart posture of, all right, cool, God, I'm gonna praise you, but in the sense of, yeah, things are good when you give me this. But if I have this attached to me, or if I have this person with me as well, or if I have XYZ going on, and if the money's right, if the money is comfortable, if I still have food in the refrigerator, if I'm happy, it's all contingent on a conditional statement of my heart, rather than now it's more so God is enough throughout it all.
Yeah.
And one thing I love to say is, God is still good even when it doesn't feel good. So yeah, that's exactly where my heart and where the God really has me right now, especially in as I share my story, and even as I talk to other people as well, just like, reiterating that, God is still good throughout it all. So
talk about that, bro. I love where you brought up, like, even when you're not feeling like a certain thing. A lot of times Christians, we can become kind of like in a disarray because we often make our feelings our idols sometimes. You know what I mean? So why is it important that even though you don't feel a particular way, why is it still important to trust in God in those moments?
Man, because His love is unconditional. God's love is agape. It's so wide and it's so vast and it's so deep for us that there's literally nothing that we could absolutely do to make Him not love us, or to harden His heart towards us at all. And one of the main things that I've started to, as I deepen my relationship and deepen my understanding, or begin to understand who God is and His character, I start to realize and remember that He's still there, even when He still chooses to run after us, even when we run away from Him. And He continues to kind of corral us, even say, no, I'm only going to let you go so far, kind of like a horse in the stable. I'm only going to let you walk out, and going to have so much terrain for you to walk out and go so far out of, and graze and learn whatever this area is for yourself, before I put this guard around you as well, for you to come right back and say, right, cool, this is the end. Let me come right on back from there. And a lot of times, especially when it comes down to the submission side of it too, that I've learned a lot that it's a very dangerous place to be when God allows you. He loves you enough to let you be submitted to yourself, and you start to learn. Uh, if He pretty much loves you enough to say, "I'm a allow you to beat yourself into your own submission, where you have no choice but to submit back over to me." Um, and that is it's a hard love, but it's absolutely a necessary love as well, because you start to understand uh, I can't do it by myself. I have to lean on God, and like the song says, Christ is my firm foundation, and on the rock on which I stand. That has to be your heart posture, and you have to be rooted in stand firm on knowing who He is, not just for who He can be to you, but also just who He is and just His presence and His essence of itself.
All right, that's good, bro. Where did your knowledge of Christ start? Let's go back to
Man,
your childhood. Did you grow up in the church, or how did that
man,
come
I'm a
about?
church boy through and through.
Yeah.
Growing up in New Orleans and in Baton Rouge after Katrina happened and everything, man, uh, it was pretty much ingrained in me that I was just gonna be a church. It was literally no no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Yeah.
Like my mom, my grandmother, my great grandmother, they all grew up in church and everything. Uh, and it was like, nah, you if anything gonna happen, you're gonna be in that church. And so at first it wasn't, and I would absolutely say, it wasn't us in the sense of in the heart posture of, you know, I'm going to make you do something. I absolutely love doing it. Like when I went to church, that's actually where like I have a lot of my closest friends that I even consider my brothers and my sisters now as well. Like we still are friends to this day. It's 10 years long and 10 plus years long relationships that I still carry and I still cherish to this day as well. Um, but literally, I was in church from literally Sunday to Saturday. Like Sunday, I served in the media team, but I also did like, for instance, I did like mom that was on Mondays, and also had brotherhood meeting, kind of like our men's ministry meeting that we would do. And that's where I kind of actually started learning and a little bit how to cook on that side, actually applying it with the church people. Tuesdays was we would call it Circle of the Chosen. That was kind of like our youth ministry. We all kind of would get together and learn about God in that sense. Wednesday was choir rehearsal. Thursday was dance practice. Friday was a miscellaneous day, but some potentially always could come up and like may have a miscellaneous practice or hanging out with the same church people, whatever the case may be. And then Saturday morning we get up and serve the community for community breakfast. That was a real big thing that my church definitely cared about, like the surrounding area. So it was literally something every single day. Right after I get off of school, go straight over to church, man. But I absolutely loved it. Like it was definitely something that I still cherish. I always think about, um, and even in this season that I am in now, especially with like with our pop up campus with Anna and everything. I always go back and reflect, and like, man, as consistent and as heavily as I am involved in the church now, I always think about like, man, God was really preparing me all the way back then to where this is absolutely normal.
Yeah.
To where it's like it's not unfamiliar for me to be like, all right, cool, I'm going to be at church every single day. Like, nah, this is what I grew up in.
Yeah.
And even though there was a period of time where I wasn't in church during like right when I moved out here in 2017, and up until maybe like 2021, 2022, one of the two. During that period, I wasn't necessarily didn't have necessarily a church home, but I still carried a relationship with God. But I would definitely say it was nowhere near to where I am now today. But it was just definitely like a whoa.
Yeah.
This is exactly who you called to be. Now, and I absolutely love it. I still love the relationships that I'm building, like with you and everything now. Like it's absolutely amazing thing, because I also felt like in my childhood I felt alone in my walk, because I didn't have a lot of guys uh, who love God that at least that I saw on a regular basis. It was very needle in a haystack, really, to love God and love God boldly, and not be labeled as, oh yeah, you're just a church boy, you're not going to fit in with these particular groups, even though like we still shared similar interests in other senses, but 9 times out of 10, I really didn't have a whole lot of brothers that I could really say, you know what, hey, we have the same like-minded values. Because a lot of guys that I went to church with, yeah, they all went to different schools, or they were older than I was, so we were in uh, two different environments at different points of time. So it was very hard to kind of find my own footing and my own grounding in different areas. To actually find like friends of my own who were around my same age range, because half the people at the church, they were literally all older than I was, so they were graduating early and they would go over to college. So that would be it. I'm like, okay, well, I'm just here by myself.
Yeah.
And but when I moved out here, I was kind of like, okay, this is this is new.
Mhm.
This is something different that I can kind of see. I can definitely have more uh, availability or more opportunities to meet more Christ and the brothers and sisters. I would even say
Yeah.
we share that same values too.
There's a lot of times where I'll get in the mode of like, man, I just feel like I just need to kind of retract from the world.
Mm,
But then that's a dangerous place when you're in isolation. So
yeah.
you mentioned that community, how you grew up, you started to meet those people who are like-minded and on fire for Christ. Talk about why community is so important as a believer.
Man, you can really talk yourself into your own demise.
Mhm.
Um, and I realize that, especially when I'm looking at, and actually, I'll even take it this far as well. Not every single community is great when you have the right people in the community, because not all communities are godly communities, uh, and some communities serve your flesh and your desires of your heart at that point in time, versus other communities serve God. And be able to discern which ways or which ones are which is very pivotal, and that definitely comes with knowing who He is, and that's of course with reading the Bible and everything. But as pertains to like God centered communities, man, it's I really have the most accountability partners I've ever had in my life, for real. Like, there's not a day that goes by where somebody's not checking in on me or I'm not checking in on them, vice versa. Just making sure that, hey, are you good? How are you? Like, there's just a question that is asking, like, how are you doing? How are you really doing? Which are definitely two different questions.
Yep.
Um, and it's really, really cool. And I really thank God for it every single day, because there's not a day that goes by where I don't think about what I prayed for. And I prayed for like more brothers to be in my space, because I grew up around a lot of women. I grew up around uh, like I was in a single parent household. My mom pretty much raised me from uh, pretty much when I was born all the way up until I graduated high school and everything. Until I moved out here with my dad, funny enough, in 2015. And the importance of community with that is just kind of being able to like balance all those different emotions, especially as you're going from state to state, from uh, just getting out of high school, and you getting all these different uh, environments and these different scenes and everything, and just being able to balance ideas or decisions. And hey, is this actually a just decision that I should be making? Um, and even as pertains to this is where I'm in now, where I'm looking into pursuing someone, like, hey, look at this person too. Tell me what you think. What kind of environments do you like? What do you actually see as it pertains to me actually potentially courting this person, and of course with the observing and everything from there.
Yeah.
And I really think that community is really everything, because even from a brother or even a sister as well, they definitely going to have your best interests at heart, but interests that also direct you back over to God first. And everything always starts over with prayer. Every single thing, always, every decision, good, bad, every emotion, every life change or loss, gain, whatever the case may be, it's all directed by giving reverence and honor back over to God, because that's who it came from.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's exactly it from there.
You mentioned that you grew up in a single parent household,
Hmm.
right? How did you navigate? Was your father like active in your life? How did you navigate him being absent from the home
Yeah,
as a young man?
yeah, man. I struggled with it for a little bit. Um, but one thing that I realized that I never lacked anything. Um, and I say that in the sense of like in the material sense. Like my mom always made sure, or my community, in my village, my mom, my grandmother, my great grandmother, um, great aunts, church community, and everything as well. They always made sure that I was being poured into. But I still did have that longing for a relationship with my father. And I think it was even harder because my sister and her dad, they had an awesome relationship. He was very active in her life, and he even imparted some wisdom and was there for in my life at different points of time as well. Because he was definitely an amazing stand-up guy, especially who he was for my sister as well. He made sure, like, I remember my sister every single time that she would like go over there for like Easter or holidays, whatever the case may be. She would be kicking, screaming, crying, all the things of the things because she did not want to leave her dad's house. So I was like, man, that's how I want too. But my dad and I actually rekindled our relationship in 2015 when my grandmother passed away, his mom, unfortunately, at that point in time. And he had remarried. He had a blended family, and I was introduced to my sisters as well. We never said anything about like stepsisters. We never didn't believe in that. It was like that's my sister, and these are my brothers as well. And when we rekindled our relationship, it was kind of like I'm still kind of start trying to figure out who this guy is. And he's still doing the same thing for me, same thing with me, I should say. Um, and it was definitely like okay, I like this person.
Yeah.
And I also liked the relationship that I had with my sisters as well because it was literally we were joined at the hip. I had a sister named Morgan. We were the same age, and we were kind of like, and actually we were in the same exact grade. We had the same exact interests. I was like, all right, perfect. I got something I can look forward to if I ever wanted to think about moving to Texas. I know who I can go with. And then we started having that conversation. And I was like, okay, yeah, I actually think I will come over and move to Texas, and especially like, as we started to come over, I started to come around a little bit more, like going out for Thanksgiving, Christmas. I started like meeting more of my dad's side and my cousins on that side and everything, and it was just dynamite from there.
Yeah.
And then in 2018, unfortunately, my sister did pass away, and that hurt. So it kind of left like a void, not necessarily in my relationship with him, but just a void in the house and in my heart, really, because it was a very difficult time for us as a household, and especially in the sense of like how everything went and in her passing. Uh, but my relationship with him was definitely it. Even still now, it has blossomed and bloomed so much to where I'm just like, wow, it's very interesting to see like how God really is very intentional about the timing. And everything literally happens for a reason. He allows you to go through and experience different emotions and process different things and expose you to different things as well to make sure that everything flows in the right way. And of course, he and I we've had our ups and downs and everything as far as we've not seen eye to eye. But we've definitely all come to terms and saying like, we're in a much better place right now. And like that's my dude. Like we locked in.
Talk about your sister's death, bro. I know you mentioned that grief was tough. Kind of dive deep into that, bro.
Yeah, man. So in May of this year, it made 8 years since she's passed. Um, and I literally never forget that day. Really, it's been every single May that it does come around, I'm just like, I start to feel like as the weeks come, I'm like, what is this feeling? I always kind of put it on the back burner of my head, but I'm like, oh yeah, that is coming up, the anniversary of her death. We all had the same interest in everything, so she was literally my best friend. She was more than a sister, really, at that point in time. Couldn't even be blood, couldn't make us closer, really. So when I first moved out here and everything, we had the conversation of us going to college. And at that point, I was still living in Louisiana, and she was already living in Texas, but we both wanted to go to Texas Southern. However, Texas Southern wanted that out of state tuition, and my mom was like, "Yeah, I don't know about that." And my dad was also like, "Yeah, I don't know about that either." Especially like both y'all want to go to school at the same time. Love it, but let's take it all the way through. So we ended up deciding we want to go to college, just do some prereqs and everything, which made sense. Like it's a accredited school. We can definitely like transfer once we get the prereqs out and then declare our major over there, so forth and so on. So I was all right, cool, perfect. And for her, she knew exactly what she wanted to do. Like she wanted to be in TV and film and make her own movies and everything. She wanted to go to UCLA at some point in time as well and live out in California. But for me, I was kind of like I really don't know exactly what I want to do because truth be told, I was good. I had a lot of different interests. I was good at a lot of different things. Like in church, I was very interested in TV and film and in like AV. So I was like, all right, cool. I might want to do that. But I also like I want to make money. So I was my dad at the he is a he works in computers and IT. So I was like, okay, cool. I want to go that route. That looks like it makes a lot of money. So let me go through there. But I really didn't have a heart for it at all. Like I was good and techie in a sense, but it was more so like I'm young. I know how to work an iPad. Ain't really like the codes and stuff like that at all. So I was really going into it like for the money and all. But for her, like she had every I dotted, T's crossed. She knew exactly like what she wanted to do as far as her plan. Um, and when she passed, it was crazy. She passed away in a car accident. Um, FedEx truck ran the red light and hit her from the passenger side, and it definitely messed me up. I remember getting that call, the 3 calls that morning from her mom. She was like, "Hey, can you check to see if Morgan is in her room real quick?" And I said, "All right, cool. I'm gonna go look in the room." Nah, she's not in there. She was like, oh, "Okay, I'm keep going getting these weird phone calls, and so forth and so on." And I was like, "Okay, cool." And so she told me like go look down the street, like try calling her, see if she was able to pick up the phone. I was like, okay. She calling. She's not picking up the phone. So I was like, all right, cool. Look at find my location. Looked at her location. It kept kind of like spinning all around. And the dot like kept moving in different places. I was like, that's weird. Don't know what's going on, but I'll try to figure it out. And then she gives me a call. Her mom gives me a call again, and she was like, "Hey, what did y'all get in an accident last night?" Because she and my sister and I we worked at the mall at that time as well, and she was just like she would pick me up from work and everything, and she was like, "Hey, did y'all get in an accident?" And I was like, "Nah, we definitely wouldn't. We definitely drove home. Y'all definitely would have seen the car bent up or whatever the case may be if we got in an accident." And she was like, "Yeah, I didn't think so." So, all right, cool. Uh, Next phone, and during that phone call, she was like, I think she was getting another phone call. She ended up calling me back and saying, "Hey, I think Morgan's been in an accident." I'm still trying to get like all the details and everything, as far as like where she is, where they're taking her to, so forth and so on, um, all the things from there. So I was like, all right, cool. So my bet, I immediately go into like protective mode and also into like I really have a very hospitable heart. I feel, so I'm always thinking about like how can I serve people. So I immediately went to her room. I started grabbing her like her charger, her laptop, her iPad, different change of clothes and so forth and so on. And I did that for everybody in the house, like my dad, my mom. I got got everything up and packed and ready to go for everybody. Because I also didn't have a car, so I was just literally just waiting and sitting, just waiting for an address to let me know, like, hey, I'm about to go pay for this Uber real quick so I can go to whatever hospital that she's at and so forth and so on. Because I didn't want to cause any. My best friend and I, she was also living with us at the time too. I went to go knock on her door, woke her up, and talking to let her know what was going on. And we were like literally just sitting there waiting. And so I have an older sister. She called me and she was like, "Hey, have you talked to we call them Mom and Padre? Have you talked to Mom and Padre yet?" I was like, "No." And she was in the phone with her, she was in the car with her aunt, and she was just like, I can't." And I was like, "What's going on?" And so her aunt picked up the phone and she was like, "Hey, she didn't make it, baby." And I was just like, "Okay." And I literally just said it just like that. And so my best friend, she just went screaming and crying, into the couch and sat there for a second. And I didn't cry. I just sat there for a second. And I was just like, okay, processing it. Very weird. And so from there, I was kind of like, all right, so where do where do I need to go from here? And so she was my aunt. Sorry, our aunt. She was just like, it's going to be a little bit of time. They're still trying to figure out what's going on, but unfortunately, she did pass. And she was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah. I mean, it is what it is." And I think at that point, I just was feeling like a lot of denial because I literally just saw her that previous night, and I was like, "Ain't no way this just happened just now." And so after that, I think I really felt a lot of that denial. I can identify it now. A lot of that denial came with me not being able to go up to the hospital to see her, because they were like my dad and my sisters and everything. They were just like, "Nah, stay at the house. We're all gonna be coming on the way back to the house after they finish up at the hospital and everything." So I was just kind of just sitting there waiting, and as soon as the garage lit up, I heard uh, I heard her mom in there just screaming and wailing, crying. Her clothes are half off her body and everything. Like it was definitely like I can literally recall the image and know exactly what she was wearing to this day. Um, and in my head, I think I didn't react in that very moment just because I knew what was going to be coming in. I knew I had to be, or I wanted to be strong for my dad. I wanted to be strong for her. I wanted to be strong for everybody else, but I didn't necessarily know how to be strong for myself in that moment. Um, and even when it came down to like the whole funeral in and of itself, like she didn't have any like brain contusions. She did not have any broken bones or uh, anything physically wrong with her in her body at all. So I was kind of definitely like, something's definitely not right here. I don't like my siblings and I. We made this joke, just like she's not dead. There's no way she's gone. She's probably left. She probably left like an effigy of her body and all the way in Barbados somewhere. Um, and that's kind of how we dark humor but grieved it through at the same time. We're leaning on each other, but we were definitely like, whoa, what is happening here? And for me, I kind of felt like a little bit, and I've been able to identify it now. I kind of had a lot of survivor's remorse, because in my head, on paper, it would have made more sense for me to be taken out versus her, because she knew exactly where she was going to be going. She knew exactly like what her plan was versus I was just kind of here like, I don't know. It would make in my head it made more sense for me to go first, or me to be in an accident and so forth and so on, versus you got this person here with all this potential, and this all this impact in the world, so forth and so on. So I questioned God really and saying like, all right, what is really going on here? Like what was the purpose of you taking her? But I wasn't angry with him. I even wasn't even angry at the accident at the or anything like that, or the driver of the accident, I should say. But I was just upset with the situation, and I really told God, I was like, man, that really hurt my feelings, bro. And I remember literally telling him, I was like, man, that really hurt my feelings. She did not have to do it like that. And for me, it was kind of like it put me in a position where I started to kind of like re-examine uh, what I really wanted to do from there as to propel forward, and also made me kind of like take a step back to say, all right, cool, what is it actually that I need to be doing to make an impact in the world? And the answer didn't come immediately, and it still is slowly, still continuously to be revealed to me as I dive deeper into God's word and of course in community and where I'm at with church now and everything too. It's making more and more sense. Like, okay, Lord, I see why. The Bible says, lean not to your own understanding. Uh, so even though I'm being learned to be content in that understanding of asking the questions, why did you take her? But I understand why I'm still here now too, because I'm understanding the call, being able to say, you know what, I need to go out and tell my story to say, you know what, hey, here is what God has brought me through, and here's how He's made me a better person now. To be able to say, you know, through it all, I'm still going to trust God and still going to seek His face and want to be desperate for Him and have that relationship with Him too. I didn't go to church immediately right then and there because I felt like I had a reservation with going back to that same place where I last saw her face and everything. And I was like, I don't know about this for real. It took some years, but I was like, no, I'm gonna try it again. I'm gonna see exactly uh, what actually a real relationship with Christ looks like. Not my grandmother's religion, not what I knew just as a child, but who I know Him to be in my adult years now.
You feel like you started to dive deeper in your relationship with Christ. Talk about why it's so important to seek Him outside of growing up around the church.
The Word is a real place, and I feel like there's nothing new under the sun as it pertains to the different tactics that the enemy tries to show you or try to tempt you to make you choose yourself over what's righteous. And if you don't know what's actually what God calls you to, what actually God says in His Word, you can live a life that is misleading, what you think is actually right, but just because it feels good in the moment and just because it's a temporary fix or it's a temporary high, but you'll never have a fulfillment of what actual joy feels like and what actual happiness and unwavering love feels like as well. Especially as a man, like being able to know that God loves me unconditionally, and being able to bask in that and in His presence and being able to lean on Him and lean into Him is something that literally no man on earth can ever shake me from. Like it's absolutely there's literally nothing anybody could ever say to me to say like, you know what, I'm gonna turn my heart away from God. There's no circumstance that can happen to say I'm gonna turn my heart away from God either. Like whether I have a job, I have all the money in the account, or I don't have any money. If I have a car, if I don't have a car, if I'm in a relationship, not in one, if I'm in a house or out on the street, God is still good. God is everything that you can even ask for, and there's nothing you can really do without Him. And once you start putting Him at the center and at the core and putting Him first in every single situation that you encounter, you will really start to see the difference and see the shifts as far as your mentality and how you interact with people, in your own dialogue and how you really how you walk, because it's such a different heart posture and such a different shift, as you start to hear yourself and reflect back on conversations like, you know what, I didn't curse, or know what, I didn't drink, or I didn't do X, Y, Z, or Z, Y, X, because it's a slow death to your flesh, that you have to mindfully continue to choose every single day, and it's not like anything's going to be a cold turkey moment where you're going to just turn drastically all the way from there. It takes some pruning, it takes some sculpting, for God to get you exactly where He wants you to be.
The most important component of our walk is that slow death, like you said, picking up your cross daily.
Yeah.
Why is it so? Why is it not talked about enough that when people come to Christ, that there's a part of you that has to die? It's always highlighted on, on the other side of Christ is joy, in which it is, but it's not talked about enough, the dying part. Why is that not really mentioned?
They're always looking to see, what can I get from it? What can I gain? And it's always in the sense of selfishness. Like, okay, cool, what I need to add stuff to me. How can I make me better? Versus as you dive deeper and get in a relationship with Him, it's not always about you. Like your story, like none of this what we've said on this podcast is even the whole point of this podcast. It's not about us. It's not about anything that we're going to reflect back on you. It's all about kingdom vision. And I think with kingdom vision, it's such a different lens that you have to think of, because you really have to think about more people rather than yourself. And when you start looking at your relationship with God, it's always about what decision can I make now to make sure that I'm pleasing God and I'm giving Him glory. And what gives Him glory is you making a decision that pleases Him and honors Him and honors His kingdom and His body as well, in the body of Christ. That slow death that we were talking about, that's the first step of it, and which is dying to your selfishness. Um, and then from there, I think it's a lot of how can I then change my thinking in a way that is not going to be regressive and hurt God's feelings and hurt God's heart. That slow death, with that, I think it comes a lot of repentance, because you start to really examine yourself and see how messed up you really are. Because there's a lot of it that's like, man, I know I done did some stuff. I had some ways about me. I still do have some ways. I'm like, Ron, that's not good. You need to, God. And with that, I ask God to I invite Him in that space, in that part where don't want anybody to know about, or that posture of, you know what, this is only going to be for me. I'm just going to have this little small bubble. I'm like, God, no. God says, no, I want that too. Give me all of that. Yeah. And I want it all. There's no part of Him that, over, or of His presence or of His love, that He does not want to be in. And the more that He can be in that space, the more you start to know who He is, and He can heal you from from those spaces as well.
So as a man, we deal with a lot of different struggles, right? And I started this group called Men of Valor, just allowing men to be more vulnerable with each other, walking alongside each other with their walk with Christ. One thing that's constantly highlighted is men dealing with like lust and temptation, right?
Yeah.
So us being men, bro, how do we fix our vision to know that it requires discipline? You know what I mean? The discipline that's required, like the Lord says, if your hand causes you to sin, cut it off, right? Like you got to go to the extreme. Talk about why that's so important as a man, to make sure you're disciplining yourself alongside, like you mentioned earlier, being around community to hold you accountable. But why is that self-discipline so important?
Man, actually I was thinking about my great aunt, T. Francis. She was singing this lullaby to my little nephews and my little cousins. And she would say, be careful, little eyes, what you see. Be careful, little ears, what you hear. There's some other lyrics here too, but those are the first two things that came in my head. And I was like, wow, that's more than just a lullaby, because it's the more that you expose yourself to, the more that you really see, the more it kind of reflects on like your next decision and how you move from there. It's always important to guard your heart and guard your eyes and guard your ears, because it can so easily attach to you without you even knowing what's happening. And especially as pertains to like lust, you have to look at things with God's eyes first, and honoring your sisters as God's daughter. And once I really started to think about looking at women not as a object, but more as God's daughter, it was definitely, or someone that I could pursue but first God's daughter first. That's why I was like, okay, this is someone who God loves as well, and God loves deeply. He cares about their interests just as He cares about mine as well. Um, and being able to not look at women for their physical features, or look at something that they can add, or for whatever you may see on like porn, or on movies or music videos, or whatever you listen to, or wherever's being exposed, or whatever the case may be. Everything has an impact on your vision and how you view things. I think it's really important to, especially with like, go back to community and have those accountability partners saying, you know what, hey, I sinned. Here's my open confession, saying like, hey, I looked at this person this type of way. I didn't mean to. I repent for it. I ask God for forgiveness for it too. And I also think that a lot of times it's very hard for us as men sometimes to kind of, especially when we get together, It's kind of like, man.
we all be dealing with the same thing.
Yeah.
Nobody want to speak up.
Yeah, exactly.
And then when somebody does speak up, it's like now everybody's speaking up, you know?
And especially it's kind of like not like if you're not adding into it, it's like, okay, what's wrong with you? Like you can see that right there. But being able to honor God well in that situation, say, you know what, there's absolutely a godly way and a righteous way to have that conversation. It's like, you know what, he's absolutely attractive, and just keeping it at that. But also, of course, always examining and checking your heart posture first and foremost, because your eyes can definitely roll out your head and roll into something that you never were even called to be looking at, or whatever the case may be. And I definitely that's really important of like making sure you have good godly community around you, especially with brothers, because they definitely can redirect you back. It's like, yeah, we agree, but hold on, and then not make you go too far. Come on back, which I think is definitely impactful when it comes down to even dating, because if you don't have that, you're disciplined with lust under control first. You're gonna you're not definitely going to leave that relationship well, or even that pursuit if you get that far into a relationship, because everything has a trail. And if you leave the door open for lust in your single life, you're also going to leave it open for lust in your relationship life as well.
Yeah. So. That's real, bro. I saw something one time. It says the enemy tries to distort what God meant for good, and that's so true. Like that desire isn't wrong in itself; it's out of the context of a covenant, which it can get you in trouble. I kind of want to spin off that a little bit, bro. What was the biggest turning point in your life? I know you mentioned your sister's death and how that impacted you, but where did you finally feel the shift of like maturation in your walk with Christ?
Man, I would definitely say, coming to YA on Mondays, and being in those same rooms and those same spaces, I was like, okay. I would hear other guys and other brothers talk about who God was, and just even being in this before we even got even to small groups, just being in the room with all those Christ-like individuals, that can pack the whole room out.
Yeah.
So much now we have to go into the sanctuary now, in the main worship center, and I'm just like, whoa, all these people have a desire to be with God. But even as it pertains, like we get to small groups, I would like hear like you or Luis or Roy talk about who God is. I'm just like, interesting. I knew him for myself, but it made me really kind of rethink about like, all right, who he know, like you know him as a healer, you know him as a provider, you know him as so forth and so on. I want to know him as all those things as my everything as well. And I really think that the more I started coming to YA, I was kind of like, okay, this is absolutely a place where they pique your interest and make you want to figure out who God is for yourself. And so, and they're very heavy on like, hey, here is the Bible. Here's what he's saying in the Bible. Go out there and read it for yourself if you don't believe me. Yeah. And also when it as pertains to like, I know I was in a relationship previously, and we both, funny enough, met up and grew up in the church and everything. Fortunately, the relationship didn't work out, and so forth and so on. But she had a heart for God, and still continued her relationship with Him, and I did the same on my end as well. I think really a lot of times in that, when I got out of that relationship, I was definitely like, all right, cool. I need to stop letting this relationship be my idol, and actually let God be God in my life. Because I saw a lot of times I was letting my infatuation and uh, my perception of wanting to just be with someone be, and like that, and God be enough, but it was never going to work out if I was going to put that on the same pedestal with God. And the two just do not compete, they don't compare. But I really feel like once God really isolated me, and He was like, you know what, here. Actually, I don't even say He isolated. He got me to a point where He was like, hey, here is where I want you to be, by yourself, so you can actually know who I am first, and then I'll make it pass straight from there.
Mm-hmm.
So I would definitely say, coming out the relationship for sure, and just really just want to have a love that I know that I can lean into and lean on, that it's not going to be unwavering, or that's not going to judge me, or it's not going to make me feel that I'm less than, for anything at all. So,
yeah. Last question I got for you, bro. You looking back at, the younger Devon, with all of the things that you went through, whether it's traumas, triggers, your relationship with Christ, learning His grace, learning His mercy.
yeah.
What is one piece of advice that you would tell your younger self now that you've been through?
I would tell myself, you're not alone. God is still enough, and to continue to be bold, and the right people will come. And don't get caught up in don't try to force yourself to be in rooms that you were never called to be in, because not everything gilded is actually gold. Because my grandmother used to say a lot of times, don't take no wooden nickels, because they don't spin.
I like that.
And she say a lot down there now. And they used to say it still to this day. But it all ties back into, me feeling like that alone period of times where I feel like I really didn't have anybody to kind of understand who I was and understand where I was at those points of times, because I feel like it was just me out here, and I'm just the only person out here who loves God as on fire as I do, and willing to, even at 10, 11, 12, and even in my teenage years and everything, like I was still crying to God, and felt His spirit and everything, even at that young age, and I kind of felt like it was like what are you doing,
Yep.
and I felt alone in that sense, but God is really a comforter and saying, like, you are not alone. You're not the only church kid. You're not the only church boy in the world. There's a lot of people who may not have your same exact story, but have your same heart and your heart for God. Yeah. And so being able to say, like, you know what, you find the right people. Just stop trying to force the door open where I've already sealed it shut. And I sealed it shut for a reason. So be okay with that.
Turn on the lamp, I don't go postal till God give his stamp. We going global, I'm in with the champs. I sit at the Oval, they told me I can't, Turn on the lamp, I don't go postal till God give his stamp. We going global, I'm in